where you want it.
Bay 12, please.
Hello there, Transformers fans, and welcome back to another Bay 12 video review. Today we are reviewing the new Studio Series Gamer Edition number 5 Deluxe Cliffjumper. This one's no surprise at all. I mean, when Hasbro announced Bumblebee, it was inevitable that there was going to be a Cliffjumper announcement because in the games, they have a very similar body style, and the only main difference between the two is color, Cliffjumper being red and Bumblebee being yellow, and the head sculpt design, with Cliffjumper now actually having a game-accurate head sculpt on his figure. And for some reason, it wasn't until this figure was announced that I truly noticed how inaccurate the head sculpt was on the original Generations release of Cliffjumper. I don't know why. It just never stood out to me, which is strange considering how very different and how very inaccurate the head sculpt is. But more on that when we're comparing the two figures. Here is Cliffjumper in the packaging. You've got some artwork of him in robot mode there in the front. On the side, you've got a real close-up image of Cliffjumper plus the Gamer Edition number and all that. On that side, you have another image of Cliffjumper. And on the back, you've got an image of the figure in both robot and vehicle mode. And that's pretty much it for the packaging. And of course, Cliffjumper does come with a Studio Series backdrop. And this one kind of looks like the lower levels of Cybertron to me. You didn't really play as Cliffjumper, at least not in the main console games. He was available in the DS version of the original War for Cybertron video game, but he wasn't really a prominent character in the games until Fall of Cybertron. So I think that's where this backdrop is. I'm not 100% sure on that. It's clearly on Cybertron somewhere, but like I said, there wasn't really a playable mission, at least not in the main console version for Cliffjumper. Enough about talking about the backdrop. There he is on the backdrop, so you can display your Cliffjumper on your studio backdrop if you like. And here is Cliffjumper right out of the packaging, and I really love how he turned out. I love the bright red color that he has. Very game accurate. Unlike Bumblebee, where at least the original Generations figure was somewhat screen accurate, the original Generations Cliffjumper figure is actually very inaccurate to the game character model. Aside from just painting a Bumblebee red, this is what I meant by the face sculpt. Now, this one is very game accurate. He has a very similar head sculpt to that of Prime Universe Cliffjumper, which makes sense because both the War for Cybertron video games and the Transformers Prime Universe are referred to what's called the aligned continuity. So Transformers Prime isn't an exact direct sequel to the video games, but it's meant to fit in a very similar time frame as the video games. I know that's kind of confusing because they're both, in a sense, set in the same universe in principle, but they're also not set in the same universe because some of the events play out differently in between the show and the video games. And it's very confusing. It's not something I need to break down right now. We can break that down in a different video later if we decide to do some lore content instead of just toy content. But the point is, the head sculpt on this one is much better. This is way more game accurate than what we got initially. Don't get me wrong, I like this figure a lot. This is an awesome figure. This was an awesome mold. I even loved how they took the liberties of inverting Bumblebee and Cliffjumper's colors. So where Bumblebee had a bunch of red running lights and red tail lights, red headlights, all of Cliffjumper's running lights and Cybertronian lights on the original figure were yellow. Now, that also wasn't in the game either, but it was still really cool. I really liked the inversion that Hasbro did with that. But this figure is clearly better in my opinion. So, like I said, here he is. He looks awesome. Same details, same articulation as Bumblebee. Head is on a ball joint. Fully articulated shoulders on a ball joint. Upper bicep. Single jointed elbows. Nothing at the wrist except for pushing the fist in like that due to transformation. No swivel or anything like that though. Waist, hips, upper thigh, single jointed knees, side to side ankle joints, and that's pretty much it for robot mode articulation. For comparison, here he is next to Bumblebee, and now I finally get to show you guys Bumblebee with the Toy Hacks labels on him. And I haven't ordered the Cliffjumper ones yet, but they are up, which is no surprise because they just needed to do the same ones they did for Bumblebee, but in the same color of red as the Cliffjumper figure. So it's no surprise to me that the Toy Hacks labels for Cliffjumper were out as quick as they were. I just got to order them and apply them. And I'm really excited to do it too, because Bumblebee turned out really great in my opinion with the Toy Hacks upgrades. Much shinier on the lights. Look at that rear windshield. He actually has one now. Just so you can see. I mean, it's not a perfect before and after, but if you remember, Bumblebee was much like Cliffjumper here, just solid colored plastic. There wasn't a windshield there. That was the upgrade with Toy Hacks. And it looks so much better. At least I think it looks better. Some little fill-in details on the arms there, like you'll notice. There were a lot of fill-in details on the legs, like on the hips and on the side panels of the legs, on the front of the legs. Just some of the things you can see between the detail on Bumblebee and lack thereof on Cliffjumper now. And overall, it just makes for a much better figure. Even the weapons had some upgrades, and it makes them look way better too. So yeah, can't wait to order the Toy Hacks upgrades for the new Cliffjumper so that he can look as nice as Bumblebee does. Because I love how Bumblebee looks now. And we're not going to not compare him to the only other Autobot that we've gotten in the Gamer Edition line so far. So here is Cliffjumper next to his fearless leader, Optimus Prime. So you can see how they compare side by side to each other. And they look really, really awesome. Cliffjumper here does come with the same exact accessories as Bumblebee did. So he comes with the little pulse rifle, he comes with the little Nucleon rifle, and he comes with the little sword. And I don't really have a problem with him coming with these weapons. I wish he had also come with the Null Ray, which was the sniper rifle in that game, because Cliffjumper in these games was typically seen using a sniper rifle. So it would have been really cool to see him with the Null Ray at least, but we already know it's likely going to come with Starscream because that was the main weapon equipped with Starscream in the War for Cybertron video game. Transformation is just like Bumblebee. And just like Bumblebee, we're going to pull this backpack section down just a little bit. We're going to bring up the arms and pull up on this chest section here. We're going to pull it past where the head was so that we can get this panel out. And once that's pushed out, you just kind of bring it back down a little bit, and we'll go ahead and pull out those front fenders just a little before we do the arms. And we'll just go ahead and do the arms. So fold in that fist, rotate the wheel section right there, bring up this shoulder section on its hinge like so, and then just push back that shoulder section. It's going to fit in and fill in that side window gap right there, and rotate that. Fold that arm in, and just like with Bumblebee, you want this fender section to be in between this and this section right here, and then just push up the fist just to kind of secure it a little bit more. Do the same thing over here. We're going to pull up on that, bring that down on the side, push in that fist, rotate that section, and loop that through. There we go. Just like that. And the front of the vehicle mode is all done. We're going to bring that back, We're going to rotate that waist all the way around, and then we're going to push this in as far as we can get it so that we get all that clearance that we need for the other end. And then we're going to bring down on that knee joint and then rotate on this little hinge joint right here to the side, bringing that all the way up, lining up those panels. Next, we're going to bring the foot down, bring this guard section down, rotate that in, and then rotate that foot into place, like so. Do the same thing over here. Collapse that down, line up the panels, push that in, push that guard up, push that foot in, reline up those panels that came unaligned on us, and put the other leg back, I suppose, because that came undone on us too. There we go. And then we just gotta close the trunk. And there is Cliffjumper in his little space bug mode, which looks very nice and is gonna look so much better when we get some Toy Hacks labels on this, especially the unpainted rear lights. Since they're red and the back of the car is red, they blend in really well. So those reflective stickers for the Toy Hacks upgrade is going to look much better on this. It's going to help that detail pop out so much clearer than they already are. And just like with Bumblebee, you can store the weapons on top of Cliffjumper. You can peg that there, you can peg that there, and then you can peg the sword on the back so he's carrying all of his weapons while he's in his space bug mode. And you can also switch where you're plugging on the weapons and store them in different ways, like so. And for comparison, here is Cliffjumper next to Cliffjumper in their space bug modes. So you can see them side by side with each other. And the original Cliffjumper looks great in his space bug mode compared to the other Cliffjumper, but I don't know. I definitely like the new one more in both modes, unlike with Bumblebee where I was more conflicted. And I think that's just because this one is still, in my opinion, more game accurate than this one. Despite liking the yellow trim work and line paneling that this one has, I like the accuracies of this one just a little bit more. But don't get me wrong, this is still an awesome figure. Also for comparison, here is Bumblebee next to Cliffjumper. And yeah, even in vehicle mode, you can see how much better the Toy Hacks makes these figures side by side. Just look at all that awesome detail on that side panel on Bumblebee next to the lack of detail on Cliffjumper. And adding that weathering detail just makes it so much better, aside from the other things that the Toy Hacks upgrades add, just so you can see the difference. And especially on the back. See what I'm saying about the reflective decals on Bumblebee's taillights? It would help Cliffjumper's taillights stand out so much better because the red is so similar that it just blends in too well. But I think with the reflective stickers that Toy Hacks did, I think it's going to pop really nicely. Plus, that rear windshield is going to look so great on Cliffjumper as well as Bumblebee here. And here is Cliffjumper next to Optimus Prime in his Cybertronian truck mode. So you can see them side by side. And he looks good next to Optimus just like Bumblebee does. I don't know which one I like next to him better. Maybe Bumblebee just because of how different the color scheme is with Cliffjumper being red. It's nice to see a little bit of variation there, but both of them do look very good next to Optimus Prime. And overall, the figure is really good. I mean, this is an awesome Cliffjumper. All they really had to do was paint it red and change the head, and they painted it red and changed the head. So in my opinion, next to what we got with Bumblebee, this is a pretty great Cliffjumper. That aside, I have the exact same complaints about this Cliffjumper as I did about Bumblebee. I know I didn't talk about how I disliked the lack of detail on Cliffjumper, but I do dislike the lack of detail on Cliffjumper, which is why I talked about how much the Toy Hacks upgrades are really nice for these figures, because there is a lot of lack of detail on these figures, especially on the rear windshield. Once again, I could forgive just about everything else about the lack of detail on Cliffjumper and Bumblebee both if Hasbro had just filled in the rear windshield on those two figures. That was my biggest complaint about Bumblebee, and that is still my biggest complaint carried over to Cliffjumper, just because it happened 2 times in a row. And I kind of expected that after we got Bumblebee. I didn't expect them to rush to fix Cliffjumper, considering Cliffjumper had already been put into production and was already on its way over here before we even knew this figure was coming out. So it was a little late for Hasbro to fix it, but in the future, hopefully Hasbro sees reviews like this, sees other Transformers related content, and maybe goes for a little bit more detail in the future on their figures, because just like with everything else Hasbro does, as prices go up, I don't expect a decrease in quality. If our prices are going up, our quality should either continue to improve or at least stay the same. And while overall the quality has been improving with a lot of the Transformer figures and Transformer lines over the past couple of years, there are still some things that are slipping through the cracks, like just whole back sections of vehicles not getting any paint detail whatsoever. So that's one of the changes I want to see Hasbro do in the future. We've talked about it across multiple lines, and hopefully that's just something they start to focus on a little bit more across the board. Guys, once again, thank you so much for tuning into today's review featuring the new Transformers Studio Series Gamer Edition number 5 Cliffjumper from the Transformers War and Fall of Cybertron video games. Which character do you hope to see get made next in the Transformers Gamer Edition line from Studio Series? Let me know in the comments. It doesn't have to be from War or Fall of Cybertron. It can be from any Transformers video game. But I still would like to know, so please drop it down below in the comments for me, and I'd love to read it. Stay tuned for more Transformers reviews. Like and subscribe. Follow us on social media. Check out some of the other content we've done here on Bay 12. Check out our sister website, cooltoyreview.com, and like and subscribe to the Cool Toy Review YouTube channel for all kinds of awesome toy reviews and more. And some of our Transformers reviews are exclusive on Cool Toy Review, so make sure you go check it out to see what you might be missing that I'm covering over there. If you like Star Wars content, check out rebelscum.com, your source for daily Star Wars news, toy reviews, toy content, and more. Like and subscribe to the rebelscum.com YouTube channel. And if you're looking for some awesome toys and merch, come by our physical location inside Order 66 Multiverse in the shops at Willowbend Mall in Plano, Texas, which houses not only Bay 12, but also Order 66 Toys, the nation's official all Star Wars collectible store. And in case you're not local, they do a weekly Friday night live sale at 7 p.m. Central Time every single Friday night, and they ship all around the world. Check out collectorsoracle.com, our archival website for mostly Star Wars right now, but I've heard some other stuff might be coming to it very soon, and it's free to sign up. So go check it out and start giving us some ideas on some toy lines you would like to see get added to collectorsoracle.com. We'll see you guys later. We'll see you another time. Transform and roll out.
That's it, man. Game over, man. It's game over.